Oh. Hi everyone, welcome to this episode 14 of the Inclusion Conversation. It's our last episode of the year, and who knows what's going to happen next year. So let's make sure that we enjoy every minute. I am Solène. I am the founder of Be Beyond Borders and the host of the Inclusion Conversation, and I'm so happy to be here with you for this episode. We've got several returning guests who have joined us throughout the last year. So really looking forward to hearing some of their reflections, and we'll get started with that. The Inclusion Conversation, just for anyone who's joining us for the first time, is a monthly talk show, and it's all about breaking down borders and bringing the world closer together, one conversation at a time. So a little bit about the conversation today. So we're going to be hearing from different guests, and actually the list on here has changed, so ignore the names. And then that's going to be recorded for the first half hour, and then the second half hour we're going to hear from everyone here, hopefully, and it's not going to be recorded. It's going to be so nice to hear from all of you in the chat or just in conversation. What are your reflections as well? And I really want this to be more interactive than ever. In terms of just a reminder for everyone, so we are recording the first half. If you're comfortable to have your cameras on, that's really nice, because then we feel like we're talking to all of you. But of course, if you prefer to have it off, that's also fine. The subtitles, the closed captions are enabled, so you should be seeing them already on your screen. We also have the chat function for anyone live, so do use that to say hello. I see a few people have said Merry Christmas, Joyeux Noël. If you have other languages, in your back pocket, do throw that into the chat. In terms of mindset, some of these conversations can be quite personal, sensitive, sometimes triggering. So do join us with an open mindset, with kindness. And if you need to step out at any point and rejoin, or even if you're not able to rejoin, that's totally fine. Of course, take the time that you need. There are no scheduled breaks. If you need one, take one. And finally, on our last little slide here for this part, you see on the slide that we have lots of different returning guests that are joining us. So I'm going to now stop sharing, and we're going to get straight into the conversation. So let's get started with a very kind of simple, yet probably the most difficult possible question. Reflecting on the past year in one word only. Just tell us reflections, especially when it comes to inclusion, one word. So I'll give everyone just like kind of like, I see like frowns, and so just 30 seconds. And everyone, by the way, who's here with us, do think about it as well. Think about one word that would summarize this year through the kind of inclusion topic and lens. Simon. I know you're not here for, I know you're not with us for so long.
I've stayed to the half past. I'm traveling up about a 6-hour car journey, so I've managed to get somewhere to have this call. So my reflection relating to inclusion over the past year would probably be, the one word I'd use would probably be hopeful. I started a deaf awareness campaign, and the response to that has been brilliant, but I've also started to see behavior change. I'll give you an example. I worked with a company, an airline company, I won't say who, but an airline company, and everybody would not have their cameras on. And then I did some presentations about inclusion, around deaf awareness. And then they started to shift, where even those people who are uncomfortable having the camera on, when they started to speak, they would turn their camera on. They would talk with the camera on, and then they'd come off once they'd finished what they were saying. So I've noticed an increase in acceptance. So I think the word for me, hopeful, that actually, it's going to take a long time, but I think that there's definitely movement in the right direction, certainly from my experience of what I've seen in the last 12 months.
That's awesome. Thank you, Simon. What a great word to get us started on. So hopeful. And for anyone who hasn't seen Simon's episode, do go and have a watch. It was such an excellent conversation, and everyone can get some tips on how to be more inclusive as well. I remember always that tip of how are you supposed to lip read if someone is having their drink. So
Yeah.
exactly. Saskia, what about you? One word to summarize your reflection.
My reflections for this year would be a roller coaster of a ride. It's been up, down, round and round, to be honest. It's been positive. There's been some great steps forward. There's been a couple of steps backwards in certain areas, but we're making progress. So I'm really excited for what's to come. And yeah, excited as well. So that's my kind of reflection on this year.
Exciting roller coaster.
And a positive one, not just always a bad one, but I think it's been up and down, especially for trans issues this year. I think there's been a lot of social involvement around politics and, you know what I mean, communities and cultures changing. So I think it's just about acceptance, like we said earlier on. So it's just about people being more accepting and understanding. I think that's what I feel like, yeah.
Thank you, Saskia. And yes, absolutely. And you were on episode 2. You were on my second episode. So go and watch back. I think everyone was crying by the end of the episode in the best possible way, just being so moved by your personal story and your mission as well. Olajide.
Hi, I'm going to apologize to start off with because my signal is terrible. I'm in a prep and my reception is awful. So apologies if you can't hear me very well. My word for 2022 has to be growth. Because you know what? I think growth has been something that I have seen for myself. It's something that I have seen for our business. Louisa and I, we've grown, we've learned. And it's something that I have seen in the work that we do. It's only small nuggets and small little bits of growth that we're seeing here and there, but it's still enough to keep us going and to keep us wanting to continue to strive for change and to continue wanting to disrupt in the space that we do. So yeah, growth is definitely my word of reflection. And it's something that I am proud to see and in myself and also in the space.
Growth. We're planting seeds and watering them, so trees are starting to appear. I love that idea. Louisa, you're the second half of Sisu, and Olajide and Louisa were in the first episode, kicking us off, this project off with me. So yeah, thank you. Always.
And what an honor. Yeah. So I think my word for this year has got to be connection, because I think, before doing a lot of this work, feeling connected within the D&I space was something that I didn't tend to feel continuously. And as the year has gone on, I felt more connected by connecting to other people who are within this space. This year we had our event which you hosted for us, and we had some amazing speakers, and that I felt in that room that there was incredible connections. So for me, that's my reflection on this year. And to Olajide's point as well, that is part of growth. Like, we've grown our network, we've grown our connections as well within our organization, within this space. But ultimately, yeah, I feel a lot more connected to it, and it's through the people that I've connected with.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yes, connection and community is so important in this space to make change and to connect with the growth and the hopeful. It's all coming together into a beautiful picture. I'm loving that. If anyone has their word as well, do feel free to put them in the chat, and I will read them out as we continue. So Hardeep, what about you? Is your word going to be Udi or
or the color pink? No, my word is actually, as much as I loved everyone's words, and I would agree with everyone, I would say authenticity. And what I've learned is by being yourself and being very authentic, you attract the right people. And I think that's a very big learning for me throughout the course of this year, because we're all in this sort of world about chasing people and hoping that we win deals and things like that. And that is important. I'm not saying that's not important, but I think I've learned to be true to myself and who I am and what I am and what I believe in. And that means that it's giving me the inner confidence to feel that whoever's in my network or around me is meant to be there, Selene. So for me, that's very much my learning from this year.
Brilliant. It's such a powerful word, and sometimes really hard to do, right? Because we're all thinking, oh, how am I going to be perceived, and all of the yes. But in the end, like you say, authenticity allows us to connect in a meaningful way. And Hardeep did an episode on inclusive innovation together with Michael. So what a great transition. Michael, what's your word?
Hi everyone. Everyone's made so many great points. I think it's kind of like was similar to what Hardeep's point was. Mine was openness, but I might add another one to it, being action. I felt like there's been a lot of action that's gone in with the word inclusion, not just from every organization or institution that I've worked with, but it's just the fact that there's willingness to take action towards the issues that's been talked about. And I think in that form, it shows that there is more, there is an encouraging spirit or attitude towards it, even if it seems like they don't even exactly, because there have been times you look at them like, what are they really doing? But they're doing something. So, so I think that willingness to show being open to it is something that that I think has been a great thing today for me this year. Sorry.
Brilliant. Openness. Yeah, the openness to learn and to connect and to tap into yourself, and all of these are interlinked. And yeah, thank you all for sharing. And we have a few in the chat as well. We have advocacy and we have eye opener. So yeah, and keep them coming, by the way. So to summarize, we've heard the words hopeful, roller coaster, growth, connection, authenticity, openness, advocacy, and eye opener. I feel like I need to sit with that for a bit. That's beautiful. It definitely deserves to be turned into a word cloud, I think. So we're gonna now just allow ourselves to just, be happy, right? And not straight away go into, okay, what else do we need to do? And this mountain that we need to climb and all these resolutions that we need to take. No, hold on. Let's look back on the year and talk about achievements first. So does anyone want to share an achievement, either that they have something they've done themselves that they're proud of, or something that they've noticed or someone else in their network has done that they want to share that they think has been a big achievement this past year? Anyone? I don't want to pick now. Anyone wants to get us started? And by the way, not everyone has to answer. Just if you have something that comes to mind.
I don't mind going first. Oh no, Simon put his hand up.
No, it's fine. I came first. I was
Simon
first last time, so you can come first.
Oh, okay,
you get first.
Fair enough. If you insist, Simon. So what I was going to share something in the recruitment space, Selene. So we won a client after talking to them for 9 months, and they are St. James's Place, and they agreed to do something very big in the recruitment world with disability. So I'm really excited about that. And I can mention that because there's going to be some publicity about it soon. But for me, kind of entrepreneurship is always very close to me, and it always will be my number one. But actually finding that there are employers out there that are beginning to overcome the fear of recruiting disabled people is very important to me, because I get a lot of entrepreneurs that actually don't want to be entrepreneurs. They want to do something in employment. So I think beginning to break that mold, because I think in our world, and I think a lot of you would agree with me, is that when you're talking to clients, the conversion time is very, very long. But when you get there, you realize that it's worth it. Right. And so beginning to see people change and become less fearful and more willing was a positive achievement for us, and I feel very excited about that. So I'll kick off with that.
Amazing. Yeah, that's very exciting. And I think, you know, what resonates with me is like operating on all different levels. It's like you say, some people want to be employed, some people want to be self-employed. How do we make sure that anyone has all the opportunities available to them, and we're removing those barriers that stand in the way, so that they can choose that option rather than be pushed or feel like they're pushed towards a certain avenue because the other option is not available.
Exactly.
Simon, you wanted to come in as well.
Yeah, so I hope it's not like it's a bit of an achievement, but also a bit of a plug. That's all right, but it's in the space of inclusion. So I've started this. I've created a program. One of the problems with changing behaviour is that you can go on a course, you can read a book, but do people really change their behaviour long term? And invariably, it doesn't. So what I've created is something called inclusion. Well, it's a program, and it comes with a pack of cards. It's online training for teams. But it's basically inclusion moments. So you get a card that you discuss with your team every week. And the idea is that there's 52 cards. So you could do this once a week for 52 weeks. But what it does is it creates that psychological safety by following the card. And like the first one, very simple. What is inclusion and why is it so important? And then towards the end, it's saying things like, I want feedback on my recent performance in front of your team. You can't get to that point until you've actually gone through the whole process. So that's a card that's launching. Well, we're doing a pilot in January. So really pleased that we're doing this with the NHS. But I was going to say, if anyone's interested in taking part in a pilot to take part in a program, please let me know. I've got space for a few more teams. So yeah, I'm really proud of this. I spend most of my life as a consultant doing PowerPoint presentations and reports. There's nothing you can really hold. So I love the ability to create something. And this would have never happened had it not been for the deaf awareness campaigns. I've been involved in some of the inclusion conversations and inclusion things that I've done this year. So this is a direct report of all the things, direct influence of all of the things that I've been doing over the past 12 months.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing. I remember when we first started talking about this idea you had about the cards. So
yes,
it must be so
we've
good
actually made them now, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's hear from one more of you on the achievement, and then we'll move on to some of the challenges. So anyone wants to share another achievement?
Okay. It's so hard thinking that I just had a catch up with someone about this year and looking at what I've achieved and stuff, and I find it really difficult to talk about it, and and I need to get better at it. I need to get more comfortable at having like praising myself and praising what we do, because no one else does. My thing that I think I'm really proud of and that we've achieved this year is, you know, as a business, we have, like Louisa said, we managed to put on our first event, and that literally came from an idea. I mean, from an idea that we had and a discussion that Louisa and I had. I don't know, we were probably drunk, because we're always drunk. We probably had the discussion somewhere about this event, and we made it happen. We made it come to life in a very short period of time. We've turned it around, and it was probably one of the most emotional roller coasters that I've ever been on, creating the event and pulling it off. And I can't tell you how proud I am of both of us, the hard work that went in to make that event what it was, and the amount of feedback that we still get to this day about the event is literally incredible, and it drives us to do what we do. And we're not going to be events people, but we will be doing another event next year. Slight little plug, so watch out. But it's just it proves to us as well. It proved to us that people care about what we say, and sometimes you need those little nuggets of approval or little nuggets of people just going, actually, what you're saying really matters, and what you're doing really matters, and we're really interested. And it was amazing to be in a room of people who just got it, and there was no like people sitting there going, oh, I don't want to talk about this because of this, or I don't care about privilege because of that, or whatever. There was no opposing conversation. It was easy conversation with people that are like-minded, and that's really sometimes difficult to get in this space. And I do training for different people across the country around all this D&I, DEI stuff, and oh my God, the amount of ridiculous conversations that I have with people is absurd. And so it's nice to be in a room where people are just like, I get it, you don't need to explain it to us, I get it, how do we do better? And it's just, yeah, that was an achievement for us. And I can't wait to do another one next year.
Yes, it was definitely an achievement for me, I have to say as well, to host that event. It was absolutely incredible. So yeah, can't wait for the one next year.
I was privileged to be a part of that.
Yes,
I really enjoyed it. It was
panel.
excellent. Yeah. Excellent event.
Exactly. No, it was amazing. So that would be, if I can indulge myself, that would be one for me. And I think the other one, and Michael might relate to this. So we, I used to work on the Young Innovators program, and it was already a very diverse program, but I took it over and kind of like changed it and made improvements and all of the rest of it. And we've had the most diverse cohort come through. So 97 young people have been awarded and will be announced in January. And it's the most diverse cohort of funded young people, but people in general that Innovate UK has ever had. So it's a 50-50 gender split, 50-50 race and ethnicity split, and 20% declaring a disability, which is miles different to most of the funding. So that was definitely, and then the inclusion conversation started as an idea in Lisbon airport. Just thinking, like talking to my then partner, now husband, oh, that's an achievement too. Well, more for him to kind of stick with me for that long, but we'll come on to that. He's on the call, he can share later. But yes, putting this together, having 22 speakers, almost 300 people coming to these events over the course of the year has been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you to all of you for that, because it couldn't happen with everyone who's in this room today. So yeah, it's been an amazing year in many ways, but like Olajide said, it's sometimes hard to look back and do all the positives, because we're always so aware of how much more we have to overcome, and we learn a lot from our challenges too. So it is good to take the time to look back on some of the difficult things and perhaps how we would do things differently or what we learned from them. So I'd love to ask a little bit about that. You know, what is something like a challenge that you faced personally or professionally in the last year, you know, around this topic of inclusion and the work that you do, and I suppose either how you overcame it or what you learned from it or what you're learning from it. So we haven't heard in the first answer from Saskia, Louisa, or Michael, so I don't know if any of you wanted to share.
For me, it would be research. So my main struggle was finding research around trans, non-binary, inclusion, stats and figures. And I sat on a lot of different panels, and there was just insufficient research available. So my suggestion is actually to do it more of a community-based thing and have people that represent communities actually working on a grassroots level to engage with different communities that are underrepresented. And that way we can get better results. Because at the moment, literally 8% of all respondents are white. And we're trying to get more equal and diverse responses, but we're not getting them because we're not engaging with the right communities. So I think that's what I've kind of got out of this year. And that was one of the challenges that I faced. But I've done a lot of networking. I've met a lot of decent people. I'm also an activist as well this year. So that was one of my achievements that I learned, that I've actually earned that. And I really feel grateful to represent my community in that space. And hopefully there's going to be research done next year. So things are happening and I can see positive changes. So I'm really, really pleased. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember something that stuck with me when we first met, and you told me, you know, the T in LGBT plus is always missing from the conversation. And I'm so hyper aware of that now in so many different settings and events. So yeah, absolutely. I think you're so right that it's a challenge to get data, to get research, to get representation even more important. Mm.
We're getting there, don't worry.
Yes, well, you're on it, so I know it's happening. Michael, Louisa, did you want to come in on a challenge?
Oh, go on. Sorry, go on, Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, I think from my point of view, I think the challenge was role model, having enough role models out there. And I think it's still a challenge because I think from a creative point of view as well, there was a list of the top, I can't remember if it was top 100 or top 20 creative people out there, and no single Black or brown person was in it. And I was just like, what the hell? And someone was ranting on LinkedIn. I was just like, yeah, I'm just not going to get involved with this, but I'm just going to like live it on the side. But, you know, it's still an issue. And I'm not saying that we might play a small percentage of that creative world, but there should still be an insight of, you know, at least highlighting someone from that industry or something to show talking about inclusion, you know, in that space. But I think from a positive side of things is people reaching out. So when you talked about something new that's happened this year, I actually was going to mention, but skipped my head. So I'm now part of like VNA Innovate Judge for next year. So it's basically having young designers and creative kids who aspire to be inventors or who want to be something great in the future and kind of like showcase their ideas, but I get to represent them from my background and show that, hey, this is what I've done in my field and this is what you can do as well. So it's really great from a corporation as or institution as VNA, you know, coming down to the grassroots and just kind of like reaching back out and, you know, helping elevate the potentials that can be done. And I think that's what's needed in all structures, all faces of, you know, the industry that we're in. And role models, we can't have enough of them, and I think that's something that we need a lot of action to go with. And I think finding the right ones as well is another thing, or finding, you know, a benchmark to say this is a good role model. It's probably a challenge, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, that's something I think it's a challenge, finding more role models and being role models.
Yeah, finding for anyone who's not from the UK or hasn't been to London, the V&A is a huge museum in London, and they do a lot of exhibitions, but also projects, right, and innovation and things like that. So yeah, that's amazing. By the way, congratulations on that. And yes, the being a role model and finding role models, it's all representation. And I think what you're describing really well also is that the challenge is that we're facing such big systemic power forces that we're trying to change, and we're trying to change at a collective level, and at the same time we're also trying to help people at an individual level, and finding that kind of balance where we're able to influence both to increase diversity, increase inclusion, increase representation. Sometimes, yeah, can feel, well, sometimes, let's put it this way, sometimes throughout the past year, I felt like I was trying to climb this gigantic mountain, and I'm still very much on it, because you know, the end of the year, what is that really? I mean, literally, it's just like a societal construct, to be honest. So we keep climbing. And sometimes if you look at the little steps that you're doing, and then the little steps that you've made, and they add up, and you're like, oh yeah, getting somewhere, you know, changing things. And then you look up and you see the mountain and you're like, no. I think that's sometimes how it feels with those challenges. And it all comes back to that matter of perspective and how you look at things. Louisa, I want to slightly shift the question for you. I'd love to hear about hope. We actually started with that word hopeful from Simon, so I think it'd be really nice to, if that's okay with you, because you haven't come in on those questions yet. What are your hopes for the future? Maybe it's next year, maybe it's further than that.
Oh, blimey, Selene. I mean, it's funny because obviously you were talking about challenges before, and the whole time I was thinking to myself, right, if I'm going to answer this, I need to be authentic, as Hardeep said, and speak about a personal challenge that I have every now and again, and that is that I get incredibly terrible imposter syndrome. And within this space, I feel like there is just so much to know and so much to understand and so much knowledge going around, and there are, you know, there's different strands that I don't feel fully equipped in. You know, I 100% don't feel like I know enough about the trans community. As Saskia was saying, there's not a lot of research and there's not a lot of networks out there to sort of tap into and understand more about that lived experience, and the same with disability as well. And if I find myself thinking about this too much, what I tend to do is withdraw. And rather than withdraw, what I've learned is actually I need to go a bit harder, and I need to immerse myself more into the space, more into those communities. And so I guess to answer your question, what I'm hopeful for in the future is for myself to battle that imposter syndrome and actually gain the motivation and the confidence to just bust into those spaces and understand more about them and ask more questions and be brave, as Olajide said. That's my hope. I'll make it happen.
Yes. And we can be your accountability buddies, and we can be your cheerleaders. I can totally 100% relate to that. I felt almost kind of called out in the most beautiful way by what you were saying. And yes, I think a hope that I have on what you said is actually that our space continues to be, or unsure to be, because it's not always really accepting of everyone is learning, and we can't know everything about every single lived experience all the time in every community, and really being more accepting and understanding of that, and of each other, and supporting each other to do better, to be better, to continue to progress this agenda, rather than, you know, judging or saying you used the wrong word, or why did you say that, or like, so let's call each other in rather than call each other out. I think that would be a really nice you know, really nice, yeah, thing, hope for the future. Well, thanks so much. It's gone so quickly because there's so many of you. I had so many more questions, but let's wrap up this part of our episode and our discussion, so we can bring everyone who's here live into the room. Well, first I'm just going to share just a couple of closing slides for anyone watching the recording, and then I will leave you with a little quotes in a moment. So for anyone who's watching the recording, we are going to end the formal part here. If you would like to join us in the future live, you can find us on Eventbrite. You can follow us for now, because I'm going to take a break for the holidays. So, so I'm not sure when our next event is going to be, but you can follow us to make sure that you find out. Also, you can follow on Be Beyond Borders on Instagram, and also on the website as well. Wow, there's so much that's happened this year, and so much to watch. We've heard today from a few of our previous guests on a few of these episodes, but as you see, we've covered a lot of different topics in a year, and so there's plenty of content. So if you're bored between different holiday meals and feeling too full to go anywhere, it's easy, just go on YouTube and watch an episode of the Inclusion Conversation. So that's it for the recorded part for now, and hopefully we'll see you live in 2023. But before saying a final goodbye, I really wanted to share these words with you. So this is from an activist, African-American young disabled activist called Kite, and it's quoted in the book Disability Visibility, which is brilliant. If you haven't read it, put it on your Christmas list right now. And so here it goes. I feel like I need a breath for this. I challenge the extent to which we place the responsibility for advocacy on those designated as leaders or champions. Advocacy is not just a task for charismatic individuals or high-profile community organizers. Advocacy is for all of us. Advocacy is a way of life, It is a natural response to the injustices and inequality in the world. While you and I may not have sole responsibility for these inequities, that does not alter its reality. Today, I am thankful. I am thankful for every ally and individual working, struggling, and fighting to make this world a better place. Thankful to any and everybody who realizes that this world is bigger than themselves and who channels that awareness to level the playing field. These are people who can acknowledge their privilege and opportunity and consciously and intentionally use their existence to transform communities. I thought this was absolutely beautiful. I have goosebumps every single time I read it. And what a better way, I mean, there's no better way to really thank everyone on this call, every one of our guests. You are absolutely amazing advocates for this change, and everyone who's joined us as well to learn together. So thank you so much for that. And anyone watching the recording, see you soon, hopefully live.